Jim Howard here in Fort Worth, Texas.
Thanks very much for watching. Hello, Jim Howard here in Fort Worth, Texas. Today's date, it's August 27th of 2022. And as you can see, I have my second camera hooked up to my computer here because over here where I had a computer working, I have taken it down and put it in the closet, which I do from time to time. It may turn back up tomorrow. I don't think it will. Anyway, I took it down. No reason to go into the reasons for it. I'll probably maybe bring it up or something. This video, I think, is going to be about 2 or 3 different things, and they're going to be in the same video, and I'm sorry about that. I agree with you that I should make my videos on one subject. And that way you could just look at the title, you could look at the whatever, and decide that's what you want. But the way I do things, I don't have a script. I have a little bit of a script because I put a couple things, close by here that I want to hold up or do or something, but I don't have a script. So, and things just come to my mind and get totally lost in there because there's not much up there in that area. So I will try in the future, I've been saying this for years, I will try in the future to limit my videos to one subject. So to make it easier for me, and much easier for you to be able to do a search on like COLA, cost of living increase, or something like that, or whatever. So I've got this camera, which is the Logitech. I think that's a C920. It is, yeah, that's a C920. And I might change that. It's working okay though. The camera over here is the Avery Media camera. Let me switch to that one. Okay, that's really a bad view for me. And that brings up something else. I think what I'm going to do is move these 2 monitors here, one computer, and put it over here. So I will be looking in that direction. And I think that's going to work out better for me. I make a lot of changes because I think things are going to work out better for me. I'm not sure they do. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about is here in the United States, there is a COLA. It's a cost of living type of number that they come up with. People every year, they're required by law to come up with a percent of an increase that people who are on Social Security and different programs, how much increase they get based on the cost of living. It's been around since, I think, President Roosevelt, a Democrat, of course, came up with, Social Security and all the other things. If he didn't actually come up with himself, Democrats, carried on the thing. So there's a way it's done. Workers go out, and apparently, of course, they're working all year long, but for the last 2 months, I guess, they've been out doing whatever they do. And then for the next 2 months, they'll also be doing the same thing. And then they will announce what the cost of living is going to be, the cost of living increase. And at this point, they can pretty much tell that it's going to be between 8% and 10%. And that's I'm not sure, that's a big increase. I hear some kids outside playing. That's another thing I wanted to mention. Let me jump to. I ran some networking cable, and I don't have it put where it should be. I need to put it in a proper, place. So right now I can't close my door all the way, so you may hear some noises from that. Hopefully today I can run the coaxial cable the way it should be run. I have the things you can nail in to hold the coaxial cable, or the things that are I stick on there and it comes over. I'll hopefully get that taken care of today. But you may hear a television set from the other room, or conversations or something from the other room. Anyway, the Social Security Administration has to do this, and they announce it, and then I'm on. Now, the Social Security, or the cost of living, is adopted by pension plans all over. Like, when I worked as a welder for the Dart Truck Company, that was in our union contract that our pay increase would be the cost of living increase. And so it's used a whole lot of places, not just for Social Security. But there's actually, if you watch The West Wing, if you have that available, especially if you're a voter in the United States, I think a whole bunch of voters in the United States should watch the entire series of The West Wing about the White House and how it works and stuff. Because we have a lot of stupid people that don't understand politics or the government at all. They have opinions. A bunch of them have very strong opinions, but they're not very bright. In The West Wing, there was an episode, at least one episode, where the cost of living was going to be calculated or something, and the I don't want to say servants, the government, the people working in the White House. I'm not sure if the political office had to do with it or whether it was whatever, but they that was the issue of sort of the. Of course, there was more than one issue in an episode, but. So that's where the presidential advisor, or whatever, one of them, he called in somebody from the Social Security office, or the office or whatever that takes care of cost of living increase, and asked that person how it worked. And that was interesting. They actually go out and across the United States, and it's all worked out. And they'll buy a gallon of gasoline or whatever, and that's okay. That's where they come up with that. And then they'll buy a loaf of bread, and they're of course they're not doing one thing at a time and going back to but you get the idea. They actually do shopping around, and then they come up with these numbers. And they know at this point, really. I don't think they would announce it, but other people who know how the thing works. This thing is from the AARP, American Association of Retired People, and they say here next year could bring the biggest increase to Social Security benefits in 4 decades. The rising prices fueling forecast of a nearly double-digit cost of living adjustment for 2023. The inflation gauge used by the Social Security Administration to set this annual COLA came in at 9.1% for July. The first of 3 months the agency uses it to determine the final amount, which will be announced in October and will take effect in January of 2023. I'm on Social Security, so whatever the input, that I will get it starting in January of next year. I'll put the link to this. Since I jumped around to a couple of different things that popped into my mind, now I'm totally confused and think I've forgotten something. Okay. The other thing I wanted to, let's see, wait a minute. This is the same thing, I think. No, okay. This is the AARP announcement. I'll put a link to this. And I think this is the same thing, but it is, I think, basically the same thing. I'll put a link to both of these because I'm not going to read both of them. The other thing is, in high school, I went to De La Salle Military Academy. And when you hear, it was high school. I think things have changed at some point. Schools that were called such and such, military academy, that indicated that they were in a military school high school in that case, where I'm not sure exactly of these, I may be wrong on some of this. And of course there was ROTC high school and ROTC college. In the ROTC, Reserve Officer Training Corps or whatever, high school, I only went to De La Salle Military Academy. But it's my understanding that the ROTC at the other schools, high schools, they might have military for 1 hour a day, maybe Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And that would be it. We were a high school, but we were also a military academy, with the government cooperation and whatever. And so we were basically military. We were in military, our uniform, all the time we were at school. We had military, I think, every day. But, for school, the entire regiment, was it a regiment or battalion? Can't remember now. Old age. But every morning, summer, winter, rain or whatever, we would fall in front of the school. I'm not sure we fell in with our M1s in the morning. That would seem like it would have been, can't remember now. We'd have had to get them out of the rack, and then we'd have to put them back in the rack and whatever. So I think in the morning we fell in uniform with a color guard, with with the flags and with the Springfield rifles, and a band would fall in, and the flag would go up the flagpole. National anthem would be played, sound of the colors, and all of that. And then we'd go to our classes, and then on Friday, we would be in dress uniform on Friday. And the first half of the day would be our regular, schooling subjects. But of course, we had to be in uniform and had to have the buttons pocketed, had to have the brass shined, had to have the shoes shined, had to have, it was, and then the rest of the day would be military for the rest of the day, and then we would have a full dress parade, with M1s and the whole bit out in front of the park in front of the school. Now, when you graduated from De La Salle or one of these other academies, in Missouri, there was Wentworth Military Academy, and that was, I'm not sure if it was optional, I'm not sure if the students actually lived, all of them lived, on the campus, or whether if you, were close enough, I don't know. I never knew anybody who went there, but it was the same, Now, when you graduated from your military school, from, in our case, De La Salle, when you went into the military, this is a De La Salle, newsletter from the alumni. When you went into the military and when you finished, well, I don't think there's much more. I didn't check to see who died. Class of 60, class of 60, class of 60, class of 60. I was a class of 59. Class of 61, class of 61, class of 62, class of 62, class of 62, class of 62, class of 63, class of 65, class of 66. Of course, I don't know any of these people because they were after my time. Class of 66, 66, 67, 67, 67, 67, 68, 68, 68, 68, 69, 70, 70, and 71. The way those are arranged, I have a feeling, okay, I see this. This is the alumni that died within the past year. Oh, okay. Because before, I think before they did it this way. So you'd have a wide range of turning up. Anyway, so I was going to St. Vincent School, grade school. Oh, I think I forgot to say. Okay, when you graduated from ROTC, the high school, when you graduated, when you went into the military and you went through the basic training or whatever, well, I'm not sure if they call it the naval basic training or whatever, but when you graduated through basic training, if you hadn't fucked up, if you just, went through and you graduated, you would be a private. But if you had gone to a military academy, an ROTC program in high school, you would be promoted to a private first class, and that would be it. Now, in college, and I believe I'm not sure I'm correct on this, it's my understanding for ROTC in college, for some reason, you can't take it the freshman year, but you have to take it if you're going to take it, the next 3 years. And then when you graduate from college, having had ROTC for 3 years, then if you go into the military and you go through whatever the training, they would know that you were ROTC. So I'm not sure. I'm guessing that they would send you to officers candidate school, or not sure exactly how it worked, but anyway, you would become a second lieutenant. And so that's the way it works. Now, of course, if you go to like uh, West Point, you know, there when you go through, I don't think if you went into West Point after, well, I guess it could happen. I guess somebody could go through ROTC in college and then end up going to West Point. They seem a little bit redundant. I'm not sure how, I'm sure they have it all spelled out because there's people who go into the military and some at some point might be sent to officers candidate thing where you go through that. But there are some who have gone in the military before and gone from the military to West Point and things like that. So all types of, combinations. So, that's what I wanted to talk about. Anyway, at De La Salle Military Academy in Kansas City, Missouri, I forget what year they stopped the military because, see, the federal government was giving these academies support by, like at De La Salle, at the high school grade level. I guess it would depend on how big of your school was, but for De La Salle, we had a officer, PMS&T, Professor of Military Science and Tactics, and then there would be a sergeant, or maybe two sergeants, and they were, I think, totally supplied. The government, sent them, and I'm sure that also, of course, got counted to their military time also. We had, I believe, at De La Salle at that time, class of '59, we had two different officers who were in charge, and I forget when they left. I mean, there was one for a while and then another, and both of them had been in the Bataan Death March. One of them, he had to use a giant magnifying glass to, read or whatever. But anyway, I'm going to sneeze, I think. Forgive me. Anyway, at De La Salle Military, a Catholic school now, Christian Brothers ran the thing. It was an all-male school, and there were 4 homerooms, and I figured out pretty quick. Well, let me back up a little bit. At St. Vincent's Grade School, when it came, the last year of, I decided I want to go to De La Salle Military Academy because I intended to make a career in the military because I think there was a cousin that was quite a few years older than I was, maybe 10 years or something. And he went in the military and he'd come back, from basic training, and then he came back from something else, and then he came back when he was in the Army and after Germany, serving time in Germany. He looked out in a way. He went to Germany after when we were occupying Germany, before when that was over. Then he went to Korea. The same thing. He went after. He ended up going there. And when we were in occupation force after the Korean War had ended. But I guess probably because he'd come home and my parents drank. He definitely drank. My parents definitely drank. And I think that's probably why I wanted to be in the military. I don't know. So De La Salle, I went, well, first of all, I applied, and then we were told, on a certain day to come down and take the test for De La Salle. I went down, and Fred, a friend of mine, at the St. Vincent's grade school, we were in grade school together. He went down to take the test. My father was not, by the way, my father had like 7 brothers, I think it was, and during World War II, all of those brothers, served in the military. My dad did not. He and my mother, and I was a baby, we went to California, and they were welders and built Liberty ships. I was just a baby, so I didn't have to work. So Fred in grade school, who went to take the test also, his father was in the Marine Corps, so Fred wanted to be in the Marine Corps. Fred went on, both of us got accepted for De La Salle Military Academy. And a letter was sent out. Well, anyway, we went and took the test for, De La Salle to see if we could go. And that test was one of those tests that I should have brought the book over. That would have been I could go find it probably. Anyway, I have, I think, aphasia. I think that's what it's called. And that varies with people. I have it the worst, between like 0 or between 1 and 100 or whatever. I have it, let's say 1. I close my eyes, I can't pull up anything. There's 0, nothing. Everything is blank. It's pretty rare. I forget what the percentage of the people that have it is. But the thing is, it varies. So some people have it, like I do, very few, where you can't pull up anything. Other people have it, to different degrees. Some people probably have it and don't, a lot of people have it and don't know it. Well, a lot of people don't know it even exists. But for a lot of life, it does affect you, depending on how, like with me, it affects me big time. I managed to work my entire life and whatever, but because I didn't understand anything about it till very few years, I don't know, 10, no, longer than that. But, well, no, I really didn't, because when I was married, a discussion came up between my wife and I. And she said, I can't remember this is not correct, but it'd be something like, well, she said, well, I don't want, I'm not making, this is not, I can't remember exactly what she said. But it might have been something like this. I might have said something and she would say, well, maybe, I don't have to see the movie, or I don't have to see, or I can imagine, or I can picture, or whatever. And I said, what? And she said, what? And I said, what do you mean, picture? And then she said, well, and I said, you can close your eyes and you can see? Yeah, So I just sort of forgot about that till a few years ago, and then I found out about it. So anyway, the test went down for Fred and I and the rest of the 100 and, well, I'm not sure how many took the test, but I sort of have an idea because a letter was sent out to all of us, and it said, I forget what it said. It was weird the way it was put. I can't imagine that they did this that every year that way, or it wouldn't have been put that way. I'm dumb, but I'm not totally dumb like Donald Trump. I couldn't leave that out. But the letter came. You've been accepted, and something I forget. The number is 160 or something, and I forget what the number was. And your number such and such. And I looked at it. Like I said, I'm not an idiot. What does that mean? Let's say the number was 110 or something. Let's say, well, I don't remember what it is. I didn't save the letter. I guarantee you, Fred saved all his letters. He loves, even today, De La Salle Military Academy. Unfortunately, his parents moved, and he had to move. I think he moved before the senior year. I think that was it. And he went in the Marine Corps. He went on to get a PhD. He still sort of worked. He worked for the military, but as a civilian. But he did things like Fort Hood or whatever here in Texas. He was down there for a while. His job was what would it be? Anyway, to study, because he's written a couple, books on like Fort Hood or whatever, because he was there for years and years. But also his job he wasn't in the military, but he was in, I guess it'd be the Defense Department. I'm not sure how that worked. But his job was for Fort Hood, one of the things he did was to survey it and find out where Indian tribes had been, and if there was any artifacts, if there was any areas that needed to be preserved, because that was camps. That was the type of stuff. And then he turned out some other books. So anyway, there was a reason I'm telling you that. So anyway, I got this letter from the Beetle Sound. Let's say it said 110. It said that, it said, you're accepted, and your number is 110 or something. And, what does that mean? It doesn't say, you're 110 from the bottom, or you're 110. It just doesn't, what does that mean? How did they do it? So I went into class at St. Vincent's grade school, and I ran into the sister, not my sister, but the nun. And it was in class, and I went up to the front of the class and said, "Sister, can you help me with this? I got this." And she said, "Oh," and then she made an announcement to the class, and I'm not sure if I was called Jimmy then or James or what. Anyway, she said, might have been Jimmy. She said, "Oh, Jimmy applied at De La Salle Military Academy, and he's been accepted, and he is whatever it was." She looked at it, and to her it said that I was 110 out of 120 or something. Or I forget what it was, but she thought, she announced the class, and James at the top or whatever, he was 110 or whatever, and I didn't say anything, but I thought, nah, I don't think it means, but I didn't say anything. So I thought, okay, why can't the Christian Brothers, they've been around since, I don't know, the 1800s or something, or longer. Why can't they figure out when they send out a thing? So anyway, Fred and I were accepted. Okay, they had 4 homerooms, and I figured this out on my own, because there was, 2 homerooms that smart kids went to. I knew they were smart because they were taking Latin and Greek and all these kind of things. And they had 2 homerooms, and I went to one of those homerooms, and we got typing, bookkeeping, none of the fancy stuff. So I was clear. Okay, to me it was okay. And of course, Fred went, to the smart kids. That's what later on in life, that's what I call, the smart classes or whatever. I just found out from him because we exchanged another email over something. And I just found out that those two homerooms of the smart kids was called the academic class. And I forget what our two homerooms were. It was wasn't business. It was something else, and that was reflected through everything. What I did not know until just fairly recently was Fred uh, early on was selected to go to OCS class. Now, it wasn't a class, I don't think, that was like the entire. It was, I think you go for some, maybe it was even, after hours or something. But officers candidate school thing, like they would have in the military. And it'd be, I think they had you as an as if you were an officer, how how would you, what commands would you give? And it was something like that. There was no, I don't think it was any big deal. And Fred happened to mention, I said, what, OCS? And he said, yeah. Because I'd mentioned to Fred that I had a cousin who was a year, actually we were the same age, but I flunked the second grade. So, so he was a year ahead. So he was in the class of 58 and I was in the class of 59 at De La Salle. Anyway, I had mentioned I said, I forgot to tell you, that I had a cousin. And he said, oh, I know. He said, I met him at OCS training. And I said, what's OCS? And then he, I knew what it was, but I mean, what did it mean for? And he says, yeah. He says, I met him, because it was a small little group. For 4 years, I was at De La Salle. I never saw my cousin. Not that I really wanted to or anything. My cousin went on to become a doctor. So I spent 30 years, I think it was, working hospital security. And I had a cousin who was a doctor, Thank God we didn't work at the same place. That'd have been kind of a. I sort of saw a situation like that. There was a guy who was a respiratory therapy tech, and his brother was a doctor. Not only was he a doctor, he was the head doctor in, was it cardiac? Or what, something like that. And the guy who was the guy that was just the respiratory therapy person, and he was working at the same small hospital where his brother, and I don't know if there was what if they were how much difference in age or anything, but you could tell that he wasn't he was pissed. I mean, if I'd have been him, I would have just worked respiratory therapy, just gone to some other hospital and worked there. But it was, it affected him. And of course, it didn't affect me with my, in high school with my cousin or whatever. But in the 4 years that I was at De La Salle, I never, well, when of course on Fridays when we had the full dress parade, or on once a year when we marched down to the Veterans Day parade or whatever, I never saw my cousin. He'd have been with the officers. He'd have been, whatever. I just never hear my friend Fred, said, oh yeah, he said you did mention to him, and he said I saw him in OCS, and so I figured out from Fred that 2 classes of SMART, that was the academic class, and that they had OCS. We never heard of OCS. And there were other things. They took some sort of a test in their academic class, and they knew, I think from the first year, that they were going to be an officer in such and such, that they were going to be an officer. It was all decided in the academic class or in that thing. Anyway, my friend Fred, real nice guy, he Forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I forgot it again. Uh, he, well, maybe what I was going to say was he knew, he was going to be an officer, but he left, early because his parents moved. Um, what? Well, I did see one time my cousin, uh, William Davis. He was sort of like me. The, there was a ton of cousins. I was sort of I got born in 41. So, like I said, my dad and mother, went to California to build Liberty ships, and all my father's brothers went into the military. So I think all of them, when they came back, except for one didn't marry, but they came back and started having kids. And I was an only child, but man, these guys came back and after the war, they were kicking babies out like crazy, 10, 11 kids and stuff like that. So I had a lot of cousins, and those cousins all knew each other because there was like, if you have like 7 kids or whatever, you probably have a kid in each grade, and they know some other kids who have 7, whatever, and so, and I had nobody really. Okay. Oh yeah, the thing. Okay, Fred, which I was surprised, he mentioned that he had trouble with algebra, and he wanted to keep his good standing in the academic group, but he didn't want to get a bad mark against him, and so he took something from the class of dummies. Now, Fred, these are things that he didn't. So he took some other class. He didn't say what. That was in. It wouldn't have been Greek or Latin or anything. It wouldn't have been. There was no trigonometry for us or anything. Anyway, but he took one class, and he then said, that he wished that he hadn't done that because it actually hurt him in his standings for the class, which he didn't call, the smart ones, but that's what I did. But anyway, he mentioned fairly recently that he came in from military class and went to the class that he had taken from the dummies, things we could take, and that he came in and that he failed to remove his hat. And when you're in the military, when you enter a building, you are required to take off your hat, I guess. And so the Brother Leonard, called him to the front of the class and said, "You didn't take off your hat. Hold out your hand." And then he proceeded to use a ruler on his hand repeatedly. And because I'd said something about, anyway, Fred said, he said, I never saw that in the academic classes that I went to, that I took. Never did a brother ever hit, a student, ever. And he said, I had no idea that went on, in the dummy classes or whatever. So that pissed me off a little bit. But I might have done a little bit better, well, on testing, testing or whatever. I'm already there. I want to keep that one. Yeah. I took the test for the post office, civil service job, and I passed. And it really wasn't difficult. They hired in 200 of us. And 2 weeks later, they hired in 200 more of us. And then 2 weeks later, they hired in 200 more of us. And then I quit about that time. And they couldn't believe it. This is a civil service job, a career appointment. I said, but anyway, the test was not difficult because it started out, okay, here's the train schedules, for the mail. And then you switch over to the next pages or whatever. Okay, change the such and such to the train, such and train leaving, number such and such, leaving 15 minutes earlier. And change train such and such, and then it was like that. There was no, see, the things which I didn't realize at the time was these tests that you see where they have blocks or they have different shapes, and then the things are even more blocks where they're rotated. Okay, which one of these are the same? Now one is and there, and then these others are rotated off of it. Well, so when I took those kind of tests in life, I was like, fuck. I think sort of after years of it, I sort of thought, there's no point in me trying, because I couldn't picture, there's a thing, and then you're showing it like rotated. And I think it must have been fairly easy for most everybody to say, oh, that's just this one rotated this way or rotated that way. To me, it was like, this is impossible. How can somebody do this? It's because of not being able to picture things. So any test that when they had that in there, it was like, oh crap, Anyway, I took the post office exam, passed it, and got hired in, and then quit it. Then I took the Peace Corps exam. President Kennedy announced the Peace Corps, and I immediately, that brings up another memory. Can you remind me of this? No, I'm going to go ahead and finish this, and remember I can come back. I took the Peace Corps exam. I was, I'm not sure how many times, the first one they did, I'm not sure how many cities they did it in. Not a bunch, because it was the first time giving the test. I was in Kansas City, Missouri. I got a letter signed by President Johnson, Vice President Johnson, because John F. Kennedy had put him in charge of the Peace Corps. So I got a letter signed by the Vice President saying, hey, there's a testing going to be held such and such, please come to it, and it was signed. Now they had, we know, machines that signed things, the president's signature, or maybe the vice president's signature, an automated machine. I sent, when Kennedy was inaugurated president of the United States, I sent a packet of first day covers. New stamps are issued, and of course this was for the inauguration of the president, and there was like one that had one stamp on it that I purchased, first day cover, and then there was like 4 stamps on it. Then there was a block or whatever of stamp. I forget, there was like, so I packaged it up, and sent them to the White House, and I got a letter back with them when they returned them, saying the president, President Kennedy was pleased to sign but it only signed the ones that were the best, the ones where you had the block of them and it had this on the side a serial number or whatever. That made me think, yes, that he really did sign one that they said he signed specifically, and the other one that they knew, they were smart enough to know, hey, the president's busy and he can't be signing, all these things here for if everybody wants to send, so well, just send it back, So back to, anyway, that was it. So the Peace Corps exam, I took that. I swear to God, I answered. I knew everything. They, I thought, did you know? I thought, my God, it's like, did they ask me to draw up a test? Did somebody contact me? Did I turn something in where I said, ask me all these questions or whatever? But it was things that I knew partially from, well, I was also a big reader there was a thing called the government printing office that printed everything. I'm sure they printed stuff though that was secret or whatever, but there, you could buy things, and I bought military manuals, the same ones that went to the military they were trained, and then they printed other stuff for lab technicians and all kinds of stuff. And I ordered that shit in all the time. It was like before the World Wide Web, where I was getting these things and I was reading them. Survival, tropical climate survival, survival in Arctic conditions, and just everything you can. I read them all. But anyway, the test for the Peace Corps, which I did not. I took the test and I passed, and they started a background investigation on me. They couldn't find any information on me, Nobody knew me. I thought, well, I was an altar boy, so I'll pick Father Huber, who went with my father when they got out of St. Vincent's. Huber and my father both went to the seminary. Huber stayed and became a priest, and my father got the hell out of the seminary as quick as he could. Then Father Huber ended up at St. Vincent's, that was where he went to school with my dad, and they graduated together. But he ended up, being the father in charge of the pastor there. So I put him down, as somebody. Anyway, then about that time, there was all kinds of talk about the Peace Corps. And then there's all kinds of stuff coming out, like, well, you've got to be really, really healthy. You have to have excellent teeth because you're going to be going to, Africa and who knows where, and there's going to be dysentery, and there's going to be all this kind of stuff. And I thought, I don't think, I would still have gone if they approved. But I got back a thing saying, oh, you need to fill out this thing again, and because we can't find anybody that even knows you. And so by that time I thought, well, no point in trying to go in the Peace Corps because I wouldn't be accepted. And then it turned out later, there was elderly couples that were married that served in the Peace Corps. There was all kinds of, there was all that information came out. But anyway, so I took the Peace Corps. Anyway, the Peace Corps exam, I was like, wow. I wonder how many other people could get 100%. Now, they didn't send me a thing saying you got 100%, But it was like, okay, here's a map, and mark on the map where you would draw your drinking water from this river, and then draw on the map and put something where you would, there was other things, and then draw on the map where you would dump your waste material, your shit and stuff, like that. And then, of course, I'm just giving you an example, which was actually on the test, And I was thinking, I thought, right, well, yeah, you draw your water up here, right where it's coming down from the mountains or whatever, and down. You don't go to the bottom and draw your drinking water from where the people up, up the thing or whatever. And the test was entirely like that, and I thought, wow. Then later on, I took the test for Federal Protection Officer, I think it was. And I passed that. I forget some places where I had to take the test that I've been alluding to or talking about, where they had, what does this object look like, and what, if it's rotated and all this kind of stuff. And for those, because of my inability to, hang on a second here. I'm going to see if I can find that book. I think it's on the bottom here. That's it. Is it underneath here? No, it is not. Never mind. Anyway, I can remember taking tests later on, and oh, maybe that was in the De La Salle test. Maybe that's the thing where they had these things, and then I've seen them later on. But I passed also the Federal Protection Officer test. But anyway, whenever I saw a test where they had those things, I just thought, why don't I just, pick, just do it or something. So, what else? Okay, I swear, because of this, next time I promise you. I promised you this before, so you can't trust me. I, from now on, am going to limit this to, because, okay, I don't think I even covered. Did I cover? I don't think I did. And that was the only reason. This would have been the thing. I think I did. I think I did. Social Security is, I did mention, I remember talking a little bit about it. Maybe not in as much detail as I intended. I think I got sidetracked. It looks like that, I get Social Security, and every year they come up with a COLA, the adjustment. And so they can already tell at this point, although only 2 months have gone by, 4 months in a row or whatever, I think it is, they do their calculations or whatever. But 2 months have expired, or 2 months have happened. 2 months have happened. And they're saying that it's going to be between 8 and 10% that they will come up with. I see it also. Oh, you can't see it. Okay. So it's going to be between 8 and 10%. And it says here this would be the biggest increase since 1981, when the COLA was 11.2%. Also, whenever they have these things, it always says any estimates are primary, but anyway, the actual COLA will depend on changes in consumer prices through the end of September. A 9% COLA would boost the average Social Security recipient's benefits by about $150 a month. That's kind of funny. Every time that they announce this thing, they always say the average Social Security person. I'm actually the average, because I don't have to do I don't have to do a calculation or whatever. It always comes out that I'm the average person. Okay, how long have I been talking? Okay, 1 hour. Mea culpa, mea culpa, mea maxa culpa. I am sorry. I hope you got something out of this. If you did, maybe give me a thumbs up or even comment. I'd be interested if you went to, maybe you went to, one of the, military academies, whatever it is. I mean, you know, or if you just went to a high school where they had, you know, military class 2 or 3 times a week or something, I'd be interested in that. If you could put down, you know, how many classes did you have to take? You know, was it 2 a week? Did you have one, or do you have, you know, 3 of them a week or something? I'd be interested in any of that kind of stuff. By the way, I like watching uh, movies about Catholic school. Some of them are really good. I also I like watching uh, movies about high schools because I went to De La Salle Military Academy, all male school, no girls. I like watching and just thinking, you know, oh man, I made a mistake. You know, like watching a movie, if it's accurate, you know, sort of accurate, you know, about, you know, an American high school. And just to think of, you know, I made a mistake. I should have gone to those. You know, if the girl would come in her cheerleading, you know, she had a class in cheerleading or something, and then she comes into the classroom with the rest of it, you know, with the boys there or whatever, and she has on a whatever they call the costume, you know, and that kind of that. You know, I should have gone to a high school boy should not be going to a school that is male only. I do believe, though, that probably it would be a good idea to separate girls and boys. I think I think it would be probably a lot better, probably a lot better for the girls, and probably a lot better for, well, depends on what you're talking about as far as the boys are concerned. But I think probably it would be a better system. Anyway, thank you very much for. Oh, by the way, let me throw something else in here. No, I want to do DSL. No, what do I want to do? Oh, whoops! You're not seeing that, so. Okay, go to Amazon. That's it. Go to orders. Okay, this is coming in today between 3:30 and 6:30 p.m. I have a bunch of Mises, is it? Or is it mouses or what? I have a bunch of those around here. I really don't need another one. You know, I'm using which work. I have 2 of these. Logitech G 502 Hero, G502 Hero. But I'm getting this in. I think it'd be interesting to try, and it's not all that expensive, so it should be here today. Anyway, thank you very much for working. Thank you for checking in, and I hope it's not a mistake, but I think I'm going to move the computer over on this side. Let me see, maybe I can, yeah, maybe I'll do that. Hang on a second. Okay, there we go. So I'm thinking of putting the computer and the 2 monitors over here. I think I have a good reason, but probably a mistake. So, thank you. Thank you very much for watching.